Oh, this was definitely one of those movies that had feelings about watching. Um, Rosemary's Baby. I've known about this movie for forever since I've probably been a teenager, because I've seen it all on the list of the most greatest movies ever made and the most significant, this, that, and the third. And it's supposed to be really scary and it's chilling, and it's just one of the best horror thrillers ever made. I mean, it's critically acclaimed out the wazoo, which was kind of how I was viewing The Exorcist. And I watched The Exorcist, and I thought The Exorcist was fantastic. I loved it. I didn't even think there was really any problems with it. Then I go over and I watch Rosemary's Baby. It's a little bit longer than The Exorcist. It's about 2.5. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think. And did I want to turn it off? No, I did not. There was not a point in this movie where I was like, this shit's stupid. Let's turn it off. It didn't get to that point. However, first thing I want to say is that I definitely would need to watch this movie again to get a better understanding and a better appreciation. However, the first watch did tell me enough in that I don't want to watch this movie again. I don't want to sit through this movie again. First thing that stood out to me, Ruth Gordon in this movie plays a crazy old bitch. I've seen her in one other movie, Harold and Maude. Shout out to Liz, got me to watch it. Pretty good. Little early 70s comedy movie. Played a crazy bitch in that movie. Played a crazy bitch in this movie. She was effective in both roles. She was probably, she was my second favorite character in this movie. Mia Farrow, the lead. I thought she was pretty. Thought she was talented. I thought that she had an all-around good performance, that as a whole, with the themes in this movie surrounding the occult and women's liberation or lack thereof, and how they're treated in this misogynistic, unfair way where she doesn't really get a say in how her relationship with her 40-year-old husband, who she's 23, just wanted to throw that out there, and how he wants to have the baby. Yeah, she wants to have the baby, but he's taking control. His acting career is taking a turn for the better, I think. I'm gonna have the baby now. I thought that shit was hilarious. That was the funniest. That was the second. There were two really funny lines in this movie. The first one was, oh, is she still blind? Like, she goes to that party or whatever, right? And I think the doctor whom she was recommended to from Ruth Gordon and her husband, those two crazy old fucks, they recommend a doctor, and I believe they go to his party or something, and there's a blind guy there, and she hears about it, and she's like, oh yeah, is he still blind? What? As if you can cure blindness in the 60s? Are you crazy? That shit was hilarious. But no, the random spontaneous, let's have a baby, that was definitely my favorite line in the movie, and it made me laugh. Now let me say this. I can definitely understand the significance of the movie. I can understand why people would love this movie. I can understand why, if you're an intellectual, a film buff, the performances are really good, and throughout there's all these strange, dreamy, cult-like sequences, right, that kind of take a dip from reality. There's that scene on the boat. There's that weird scene towards the beginning of the movie, actually, right after she has sex for the first time, right, and conceives the baby, where everybody's in her apartment naked, staring at her, all the characters in the movie. Kind of strange. And then, at the end, as she slowly starts to realize that all these people in her life that are supposed to be kind of aiding in the process of conceiving this child, whether that be her husband, her neighbors, the doctors that she's seen. Once she realizes that they're all likely part of this cult, right, to try and take her baby and use it as a sacrifice, you know, it definitely starts to pick up. And I would say it's definitely a horror movie in that the way that this poor woman is treated, this poor woman, sorry. Because, I mean, she's raped, she is, I would say in a way, she's physically abused. She is tormented emotionally, psychologically by not only her husband, but other characters throughout the movie. And it does it in a pretty subtle way. You kind of have to look out for it. There's not a whole lot of abuse, like he stabs her or he chokes her or anything like that. And there's not really any gore. This movie, I could see how it's quantified as a horror movie. Personally, I don't quantify it as a horror movie. But it's definitely the direct opposite of a movie like The Descent, where, you know, The Descent plays on your legitimate fears of what is or what isn't out there and how it's going to hurt you and tear you apart and rip your guts out. This plays on, you know, this poor woman's, like, lack of trust among all the people around her and how she's slowly losing her sanity. She's taking all of these drugs by these people who are trying to drug her, but she doesn't know who to trust. She's never had a baby before. She really wants to have this child. She learns that this child is going to be the subject of this horrible cult, this sacrifice. She doesn't know who to turn to. She doesn't know who to ask for help. And everybody she thinks she has trust in, everybody she thinks she can trust, ends up, you know, she comes to the realization that they are the one who has been after her in the first place, and all these people are dying, and everything is just going fucking bananas and haywire. And it's definitely a bit of a mind fuck, right? I'll give it that. And the end of the movie, after the baby has been born, right? And I will say the movie does a pretty good job of passing the time pretty flawlessly, pretty seamlessly, right? I really like that. Because at the beginning, for like the first, 45 minutes to an hour, she hasn't even conceived the baby yet. And then it slowly starts to develop as time goes by, and eventually, you know, she gets to like her due date, June 28th. Ooh, spooky. And, you know, they like convince her that it's like a stillborn baby, and she's so drugged the fuck out by all these nut jobs that she believes them. And then, you know, you hear the baby, like on like the next floor, and she's constantly, I mean, this poor character is constantly questioning what the fuck is going on. And at the very end, she sees her baby. We don't actually get to see what it looks like, but from all indications, right at the very end, when they're in that great big room with like all of the cult members saying that she's got his daddy's eyes, and, you know, she's like, what? And she was like, yeah, it's dad, it's the devil. You're like, what the fuck? And it kind of ends on this interesting little, not really a cliffhanger, but she kind of like looks over the cradle and then it just kind of cuts off. Yeah, so is it my type of horror movie? No. Is it my type of movie? No. It was kind of everything I thought The Exorcist may have dragged on about, without the payoff of The Exorcist and without the, you know, deception that I personally had whenever I watched The Exorcist, right? Because The Exorcist I thought was going to have a lot of religious speak because it's about a demon, and I wasn't sure how much action there was going to be, and there wasn't that much, or there was just enough in The Exorcist, and there was plenty of action, there was plenty of intensity at the end. This movie, there's not a whole lot of intensity. Sure, there are a lot of really unsettling moments, i.e., you know, whenever she is getting raped, and towards the end of the movie, when they're sedating her and they're stabbing these needles in her, and so on and so forth. But there's not ever that real horror moment that I could quantify in my personal opinion. Obviously, different people are going to watch this movie. You know, maybe if I am a man, so I certainly think that there is a different element here because it is a woman throughout this movie in the 60s who is being fucked with, being tampered with, and having her mind altered and her reality just fucked on its head. So I think that's definitely something at play here. But as I said, I don't think I would watch this movie again, even though I probably should, to get a better understanding. And I think perhaps I would enjoy it more. But it's almost a 2.5 hour long movie, right? My attention span is fucked as it is. I do think the best part of this movie are the performances by the actors. Or actresses, I guess. Ruth Gordon, once again, she was funny as hell. She was great in Harold and Maude. She was great in this. She won a Golden Globe, I think, or an Academy Award or something for a reason. Mia Farrow was fantastic. She played this crazy ass lost girl who just had so many different things going on. But Roman Polanski, you creepy bastard. It definitely had some Roman Polanski vibes if you know about his rapey shit. But ultimately, man, I don't know. Rosemary's Baby, was it better than I was expecting? I was expecting it to be some critically acclaimed, you know, nice and polished movie that just bore the fuck out of me because I didn't really understand nor was I interested in its subject matter. And that pretty much was exactly what it was, right? Part of me wants to give it like 2 stars or 1 star or whatever because I just was not very entertained. But at the same time, I mean, I have to be aware of the significance of this movie and how it is great, and I can understand its greatness as like a horror or as like a thriller, right? And what it has to say about the various subject matters that it covers, like women's liberation and the occult and stuff like that. But personally, you know, I wanted to watch it as a horror movie and as an entertaining movie, not necessarily something I wanted to learn from. It did make me think, so I'll give it that. And I liked some of the characters, but all in all, I'd probably give it like a 2 out of 5. I wouldn't watch it again, but it definitely has some redeeming qualities, and the fact that when it was made in the 60s, I think it was pretty ballsy, and a lot of the things that they did in the movie was a little ahead of its time. So I'll give it that. It definitely is much greater than it is better. That's for sure. Not watching it again, but hey, at least I can say I've watched it. 2 out of 5.